Here's a new set of patch notes from the pre-patch podcast. Check it out.
The other stuff that we
Dude,
talked about.
real talk though. Before we leave off on this, like, do you think that they're gonna? Because like they have until tomorrow to bring forward.
I was under the
Basically,
impression that the judge denied the appeal already.
did they? I didn't think
I
that they
thought
did.
it was
already?
like a couple. I think it was a couple hours ago. Judge denied appeal. Let me. 3 hours ago, as expected, Judge Corley has denied the FTC's motion to stay her own PI order.
Okay.
And you were just going to keep quiet, Bill?
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Either way,
No,
like if they appeal again, like how what do you guys think is like the grounds that they're going to be doing this on? Because I've heard a lot of people saying that like they could get them on the grounds of like the fact that Judge Corley did not specifically mention certain aspects of like the consumer protection or whatever it was. There's a couple of instances of like false
It's
like
not.
she used different terminology than what the actual law was, etc., etc.
It's not her
So,
job. It's not her job.
Well, I think in her dismissal notice of the ruling that she was she focused in on one reasoning specifically with the Call of Duty situation as to why she was denying the FTC's thing. I think that's the only issue, is she ignored everything else, because to be fair, the FTC focused heavily on
that's all they
aspect
focused on,
more so
yeah.
than anything else.
It
And that's partially on the FTC's fault, because
Yeah.
I think there is I think this should be going on. I think that the FTC should be investigating this acquisition. I don't know why they are investigating it the way that they are doing it and trying to push it in the way that they are doing it. It's coming off as a Sony-backed process.
Because it is a Sony backed process.
But
in my opinion,
the whole frustrating thing about it is it shouldn't be that. Then there are very real reasons why this should be getting investigated that are getting overlooked because of some stupid reason. And that's the frustrating part. The acquisition has reason to be like not rejected, but
investigated.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you at certain points, but I also I would say at a place where, you know, I've watched, you know, I think we all experienced it and have watched, you know, Facebook go through, you know, these kind of court appeals. We've seen, you know, Tesla go through this stuff, Microsoft, you know, whatever, put Apple. The one thing I'll say is, like, at a certain point though, whenever the FTC is bringing up this stuff of like, hey, like non-competitor clause, like making sure that like these things are available across all platforms and you're not like, you know, stopping it from being, you know, somewhere else. And Microsoft is going, yes, like, I don't know what you want. Like what, like, yes, we have offered these deals. We have offered this stuff. There's 10-year things in place. Like, this is like, all of those questions have been answered and checked. At a certain point, you kind of have to go, okay, like, I don't know. Like, the FTC needs to back off. I understand investigating it to a certain extent, but if there are things in the answers that the questions that you're asking are being answered for, and they're being said, like, yes, like, we are going to do these things, then you hold their nose to the grindstone and you fucking step out of the way. Like, I don't, I think that's the bigger problem, is that they continuously just, like you said, they focus on Call of Duty. I don't know why. That's not.
I mean, even the 10-year exclusive, like the 10-year deal for like other platforms is specifically Call of Duty based. They're not leaning into the King aspect at all with the mobile sector. They're not leaning into
or even Bethesda's stuff. Like, nothing was even mentioned about like their domination over Bethesda and Starfield going exclusive.
Yeah, nothing was mentioned there. Nothing has been mentioned about Elder Scrolls 6. Nothing has went on with the cloud gaming sector, or how that is going. Like, if Game Pass goes cloud, that is going to be massive. Like, it's getting to a point where I am concerned that Microsoft's wallet could become an issue. That's my biggest concern out of all of this. Not to defend any one company, but to defend every company, because there is not a gaming company out there, not a producer, not a distributor, nothing that can compete with the Microsoft wallet in that space. that's why I think this does need to be taken seriously, and I don't think the FTC is taking it seriously.
Yeah, no,
You think it's all just going to blow over before they even do take it seriously?
I think the deal will go through, and um, it'll open the door for more acquisitions from both sides. But if it's allowed to be a bidding war where companies can just buy what they want, the only winner is Microsoft. Whether the quality of the games goes up, down, left, or right, the bigger wallet should not be the sole defining factor on certain aspects of this industry.
So what? Well, I mean, my question then though it would be, and not saying that I'm a supportive of buyouts and things of that nature, but what becomes the then defining metric? Because if we look at the let's be honest, right? The only people that are putting out good games, right now, realistically, are indie devs. I mean, you know, and that's been the case for a long time. Not saying that, you know, we don't have. I don't want to piss off Nintendo fanboys. I don't want to piss off Blizzard fanboys that are.
How dare you, sir?
Know, yeah, you stand you're saying you're go there and play your Switch. But I don't want to piss off anybody.
Mario is the best game in the world.
You know, Final Fantasy, you know, anybody like, look, there are good AAA games. I'm not saying that they're not, but they're very few and far between, and we all know that. Like, so what becomes the defining de facto factor of, you know, how these things work? Because business in general gets to a point where either A, you grow large enough to acquire other companies, or B, you get acquired. You know, I mean, C, you can say sustainable, but that at a certain point you don't have growth at that point, unless you're something like Tesla, which even then Tesla still acquires government contracts. Like they're in the contracting business.
Yeah, I think what's even scarier is like when these bigger companies, these AAA companies, start to really notice that indie games are where it's at, and they start to acquire those companies then, and just
well, yeah. If you don't think the EA is not looking at BattleBit's creator or developers right now and saying we could just buy them, like, you know,
literally, and it's pocket change. These indie companies are like pocket change to them.
You know, so it just it's hard because I think regardless, you know, the stroke of genius of these indie developers is to either A, get bought out, or B, make a shit ton of money, and then they grab their bag and they go. Like, I don't see very many indie developers that are like continuously just pumping out more and more and more and more games. You know, it's very rare. So unfortunately, I mean, I will agree, Bill, that I think like the dystopian future that we have is that this is going to be, you know, nothing but, you know, 2 or 3 major corporations just basically dumping, you know, that own all of these things.
Acquisition war, pretty much.
Right.
What we've been going through.
Right.
And that's fucking sad because, like, we're having a conversation in chat right now with the question being, shouldn't success be rewarded if they have the money? Can't they use it? Then what's the point of grinding it out? The money that they're spending on these big acquisitions wasn't even earned through the gaming sector primarily. It was based on their Windows monopoly, which there was an FTC lawsuit against that way back when. The funds that they're using are through joint business. It is not through Xbox earning its way into the industry.
If we want to, I was about to say, if we want to point that out, like Sony itself just came out and said that the only way that they can, you know, push out that content, like the fucking God of Wars and the quality of content that they pushed out, is through a fucking game that they didn't even develop. So technically, they're not even doing that through their own merits either.
It's still through the Sony gaming network. They're still networking to make.
Oh no, they're making money off of another game. They're making money off of another franchise.
What I'm saying is they're not So
he's saying it's still inside the gaming.
I understand that it's still inside, but it's the same thing. You're still getting money from outside of an outside source from your company.
I mean, I can hear Sony. It's well known that Sony's, like, the entertainment sector of Sony as far as like from a gaming point, is not their profitable. It's not their money
Yeah,
maker.
no,
It is.
100%.
It's their
Yeah.
their
It's their
entertainment. It's their movie.
entertainment
It's
centers. Yeah.
their televisions. Their that kind of stuff is what makes it. I mean, I think even like even if we move ourselves one step further and go outside of Microsoft and Sony, because there's a natural tendency to just kind of compare the two. We're talking like, let's move to Embracer Group. Let's talk about Tencent.
Yeah.
Let's talk about these corporations that are, and I mean, Tencent is one of the
Epic.
largest
Like,
groups of that's non-gaming, but they own a massive hold on the gaming market. Embracer Group has more studios underneath their belt than until this goes through, more studios under their belt than any other company. And Embracer Group is a basically almost like a hedge fund that was started and became, what it is today to buy out these studios. So
to me, it just feels cheap to be like, well, because it's not coming from them specifically in their gaming franchises, they shouldn't be able to use that money, or they haven't earned that money to be able to use it.
Well, they've used it's business. It's business being business. And even with the Tencent argument, they are small in comparison to Microsoft as a whole as far as net worth goes.
are they?
Yeah. Tencent's net worth is 412 billion. Microsoft's net worth is 2,297 billion. So
Yeah,
astronomically bigger.
Four times, right? No, almost 5 times.
2,200. Yeah.
Almost 5 times.
So
bigger.
I don't know. I can't back a $1 trillion industry buying up studios that nobody else can possibly compete with in good faith until they give me a reason to have good faith in that. Consolidation's bad from the consumer perspective all the way around. No matter what way you try to twist it, no gamers are going to win from this. There is going to be less gamers that are going to get their hands on these games than there would have been if Activision Blizzard and King stayed third party.
After this acquisition goes through, Microsoft won't even be able to pick up another company for quite some time, though. Is that correct?
We don't know.
I mean, I don't.
Speculation, and I don't think they're going to be.
There's nothing stating that they can't try to buy somebody.
Well,
whether the FTC comes after them
denied,
for that or not is one thing or another.
I mean, I don't. The biggest reason why I don't think that they would actually do it is
I don't think they will.
A sheer shareholder. Like being a private like again, I work for a private company. And going and asking for another, you just asked for $70 billion that spent all of this time, not including just the amount of money that lawyers and all this other kind of stuff had spent, defending this case, to go and say, hey, I want to go to the board and also ask for another fucking, $7 billion, $8 billion. Like it's
I think that when like I do agree with Bill in that aspect where it's like, to me, what was it? It was like 69 billion for Activision, right? Like 69 billion.
Yeah.
That's a drop in the fucking bucket, dude.
But you still, regardless of that, you still have to be able to show to shareholders, where's the okay, you're spending this amount of money. We can't just do it on good faith. The board has to understand the economical value that's there. And just by saying, well, the net worth of this company is technically XYZ, and that's not enough. So
right.
I would say that,
it won't be right off the bat. They'll have to. I think that honestly, we won't see another acquisition from Microsoft until after Elder Scrolls 6 releases. That's my personal opinion.
Unless they try to sneakily acquire some indie companies, like we were saying.
I don't. Sorry, you guys are going to see some background stuff there. I don't think I don't think you're accurate there. I think that you're going to see it. It's going to depend on what is Sony about to do. Like if Sony goes in and buys another
true.
Group,
that is true. Yeah. If Sony hits back and goes for like a bigger like EA, we talked about EA's possibly, like, in my opinion, I think that they're personally vying for an acquisition.
Bungie on that list too?
Well, Bungie's already been bought by them.
They did buy Bungie, right? Oh, okay, no.
Bungie's already over there. But like EA would be a huge one. Like if they somehow get EA Sports,
I mean,
that's huge.
where I'll agree with Bill on this too is that I think this is where we get into this dystopian future where it's not a hey, I'm acquiring this company because there is legitimate reasons to acquire it. The company needs help or doesn't, or we think that we can make it better. It becomes a pissing match. It becomes hey,
well, you
I'm,
bought this, I'm gonna buy this.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that, right? Like,
and that's not a world where any gaming company is going to win against Microsoft. Is the problem that I'm trying to make very clear here. Matt Booty himself said that Microsoft isn't in a unique position to spend any gaming company out of business. He mentioned Sony in that, but it could be you could tie Nintendo into that. You could tie any other conglomerate into that, and that is a problem. Which is why the FTC needs to take this seriously instead of being a fucking Jim Ryan shill and ruining what could possibly be a very important decision in gaming, one that could define the future of gaming moving forward.
Yeah, it'll be a landmark case. I mean, absolutely. Like this will be a case that will be looked at for decades and decades to come, whether it's inside the gaming space or outside the gaming space. I mean, it will be something that's looked at. The bigger thing that I think that is the issue, why they're not taking it seriously, is because the landscape of gaming is still like, oh yeah, but there's Ubisoft, there's Steam, there's Valve, there's EA, there's so many other companies that are out there. Like this is just a very small segment of it. It's not
for now.
Right. So
can't open the door though, man. I'm
not
it's all terrifying.
I don't think any of us are I don't think any of us are disagreeing with that, but
definitely.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly. So
the last thing that I'll say about that though is like, and I understand where you're coming from with it, but one thing that makes me laugh, and we talked about this last night, we kind of dug into it a little bit, is like for the last decade, pretty much people have been telling Microsoft, hey, just make better games, just get better first party acquisitions, right? Just get more games. And then they do it, and then people are like,
just don't come out with Redfall.
Whoa, hold on a second. I know we told you to use your money to buy more games, but we didn't mean it like that. That's what cracks me up.
I would rather them be using their money to invest in the studios that they already own and actually utilizing them to their full capacity, which it does not seem like they've been doing.
I mean, here's what I'll
move the gaming space forward, not just buy your way into it.
Okay.
They are moving the gaming space forward by getting more options for
they're moving themselves forward. They're not doing anything for gaming.
They're a part of the gaming space.
The only thing
I'm saying is advancing like the technology, advancing what gaming is, the possibilities of gaming can do, instead of being we're going to acquire a bunch of games and then put them on a subscription service. That doesn't benefit anybody besides Microsoft. Yes, it is a cheap and easy way for people to be able to play games, but you don't own those games. It's a way for them to hold the light switch on this entire branch of entertainment, where at any point they could just zoop or charge whatever they want for it once they have secured their spot into it. Because
I don't necessarily think this is the deal that is going to hurt the consumers more than what comes after the deal. I think that's the biggest, worry here.
Well,
I think this deal specifically does have consumers in its eyes somewhat.
Why? How can you say taking a third-party studio and moving it to a first-party Xbox studio has the entirety of gamers in its sights?
Well,
yes, Call of Duty has agreed to a 10-year deal, but less people are going to be able to play Blizzard and Activision and King games moving forward if the deal goes through. That is a blanket statement. That is
an inaccurate statement. More people are going to be able to play those games, given the fact that they want to plaster those games across the entire fucking. Like they want you to be able to play games on a fucking TV. What do you mean?
Yeah, there are
the only people that would have to ever worry about that, and again, it's the 10-year deal. The only people that would ever have to worry about that would be PlayStation. And yeah, I understand that. It sucks that
yes,
they are on the other end of that now. Like, I get it. I do
You
understand
can't
that.
tell me though that a third-party company pushing out games to every system possible is going to reach less people than Microsoft buying them and pushing it out from their platforms.
But the third party company was not pushing it out to everybody. You were getting exclusive deals throughout that third party company.
Okay.
So where I mean, I don't want to get into a pissing match here, but what I would say is like the
Consolidation is anti-consumer. It is what it is. You can try to paint it any way, but it is an anti-consumer practice, and less people are going to get those games. Whether the third-party studio is making deals one way or the potential for more people to get those games is higher as a third party than it is as a first party.
But wait, so okay, so all right, let me I'll dissect it. I want to dissect your kind of breakdown of this. So with the idea that let's say that let's just say that we're at a pre acquisition state. So we have Activision, who is, and let's not even use Call of Duty. Let's say Call of Duty out of the equation. Let's just talk about World of Warcraft. Is it okay? Can we talk about that one?
Yeah, talk
Okay.
about whatever you want with it.
So World of Warcraft, like specifically, was only to be able to be played on a PC. That was it. Like that's the only place that you could get it, and it was from Blizzard directly. They have had the ability, and we know for a fact that it can be played on mobile devices. It can be played on a Steam Deck. It can be played on multiple different ways, right?
Played on a fridge, bro.
I mean, you could play that game really anywhere. But as a third-party entity, that game was locked to just a PC or laptop. So that is the core base of that. We now go post. Let's fast forward and we go post acquisition. If Microsoft keeps to their word, and we are going to speculate that they are going to roll this into their system, because I think there's speculations on both sides. If they then in turn say, hey, we're going to allow now World of Warcraft to be able to be played on Steam, on Nintendo Switches, on a TV, on Game Pass, or on cloud, does that in turn not
more
make
people
it
are
make it
then being able to play that game?
To I mean, does that? What is your feeling on that piece, right? Like, because again, I'm just trying to play out these scenarios. Does that
that was my basics behind that, is like, yeah, you're alienating one subsection basically, and we don't even know if that's the truth or not. Like we don't even know how far reaching this is going to go. There's a very high possibility that they might allow Activision games like that to be played on the PlayStation as well. We don't know. This is all speculation at the moment, obviously. But what we do know is that Microsoft itself, or at least Xbox and Phil Spencer, have come out there and basically stated, we want to be able to get these games in the hands of basically as many people as we can. They've said that multiple times, especially with COD. I can only assume that they mean that with everything else. Like, granted, we can bring up the Starfield exclusivity if you want to. I personally find that it's not a very, I mean, it is a good argument that you could be like, well, they made Starfield exclusive, but
And
like
Redfall.
and Redfall, and I'm sure that personally, I believe
Hi-Fi
that, yes,
Rush, right?
I believe that Elder Scrolls will more than likely be exclusive. I know that we argued about this last night, and you feel it's probably not going to be.
I feel like it would be a really dumb move too, just because
I feel it's going to, because it's one of the big. It's again, it's a console seller essentially. Now, granted, they've already stated that they don't really care about the console war anymore, and I'll bow to that. Like, yeah, I understand where you're coming from with that. That maybe it won't be because it won't be exclusive because they don't really care about the console anymore, right?
I think there's more revenue to be gained having it cross like for that particular franchise. Starfield,
for sure,
new franchise, it makes sense to go exclusive with it if that's what they choose to do. I think Elder Scrolls is ingrained in enough gamers across all platforms that they would lose out.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's an existing IP that's been multi-platform for decades, basically,
Right.
a very long time. So it would be a stupid move, 100%. I personally still think it's going to be, but we'll see what happens. But my biggest argument with that is that, again, yeah, you're alienating PlayStation users, right? Like, obviously, if they don't push that over to PlayStation, you're alienating PlayStation users. But to state that less people will have access to these games because of this acquisition, I think is a very broad way of stating it, because factually, more people, with how Microsoft is moving forward into the future, or how they've said that they want to move forward into the future,
Yeah, it's all taking
factually,
Microsoft's word.
more people. I mean, that's all we can do. Like, we can only take the word. We don't.
Yeah, but with
you know,
like legislations and stuff like this, you can't just take the best case scenario, stamp it, and call it a day. You have to look at any caveat that could endanger the industry moving forward.
Well,
You
here-
can't
yeah,
just
you
take
could.
face value.
and we are. I'm not saying that they're not. Again, I've just got done saying that it is a very high possibility that they will not be bringing ES out on multiple consoles, right? Like,
Right.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt at this point. I'm not stating that I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying my opinion of what's going to happen. But, like, to factually state that less people will have access to these games because of this acquisition is inaccurate. More people will have access to these games, just less people from a certain
well,
console.
here-
Less people from a PC box essentially will have access to that.
Here- here's where I can put. I think we can. One, for time's sake, we need to move the forward. But what I want to, like, I think the end all be all statement that we can kind of all put a nail in this coffin is that we can all agree that the one thing that I would at least love to see, and I think I probably speak for all of you guys, is that instead of trying to deny these acquisitions and fighting, like, which you're gonna, like, the FTC is ultimately going to lose in most 90% of these types of cases like this, is that there should be legislation that comes out there that stops exclusivity. Like, to me personally, one of the things, like, I am waiting for the day that Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo stop publishing fucking consoles, or putting out consoles, they become publishers, because at that point it ends all of this, and it's basically just
For sure.
going, hey, like, you cannot own a fucking studio and exclusively put it, and I don't care whether it's Netflix, whether it's Hulu, whether it's fucking gaming, Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, Nintendo's, I don't know, their jank ass system, like, whatever it's gonna be. Like,
How dare you, sir?
yeah,
The Switch is an
sorry.
amazing system.
But just stop with exclusivity.
All
Like,
Nintendos are great.
yeah, well, sure. But exclusivity, I just think exclusivity, that's the problem. Like, that is the end all be all problem with this.
It really is, yeah.
Exclusivity is a fucking shit show, and it shouldn't be allowed. I mean,
It's a necessary evil. To very small point, and we can wrap this up. We were talking yesterday that exclusivity is a necessary thing to bring the industry forward. You need to have that incentive to create competition. Competition breeds growth. Growth in the industry is good for everybody. So it is a necessary evil to some extent, I feel.
Well, and
But
then
how do you-
again, my argument back to that is, like, if exclusivity is a requirement to push the franchise forward, then you can't argue that them buying a studio and making a game exclusive is bad.
it's hard to do that in the same breath. Like, it's hard to say, I can't,
Like, the only thing that you could argue with it is, like, yeah, you're taking a company or a gaming producer that was producing it for the masses, or the gaming masses, right? And now you're making it exclusive to one thing. But, like, if they're using that exclusivity to push their own, like, their own inner, or whatever you want to call it, their own system, their own inner system forward, or the agenda. Like, I don't really want agenda. Agenda sounds like it's it's like a fucking bad thing, in my personal opinion.
I mean, it is an agenda.
Exclusivity is a bad thing, in general. But, like, if you're going to argue that, then you can't sit there and then argue that them bringing, like, Starfield over and making it exclusive is bad, because they're just taking that game and pushing their own things forward. It's the exact same thing that the other companies are doing, just on a wider scale, because they have more money.
Thanks again for checking out the Patch Notes, part of the Pre-Patch Podcast, which we do live every Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Or you can check us out on anchor.fm/Pre-Patch Podcast, or any place that podcasts are listened to. Thanks again. Much love.